You can't do a cohesive versus battle involving Warframes
A couple weeks ago, Pen of Evil made a Destiny vs. Warframe video. He said that Destiny wins. To be clear, I agree with him on that. However, he kinda undersold Warframe. And me, being the ethical reactor I am, waited a couple weeks before I made this video, and at the same time, I took it as a challenge to make a new Warframe scaling meta from scratch. So the reason I haven't uploaded in a couple weeks is because I wanted to make a new Warframe scaling meta that anyone from any power scaling or regular community can use. So I would like to thank Pen of Evil and his community for giving me the opportunity to take this challenge and put it to the test. Can I make a definitive Warframe power scale? Let's find out.
No. I can save them.
Not unless you know them.
Level 1, the Tenno. Among the bunch, the Tenno are easily the weakest. They're surprisingly fast, I'll give you that. They're not as fast as a Warframe, or as fast as a Sentient, but they're plenty fast on their own. That's not what they're useful for, however. The Tenno have access to the Void. They pilot Warframes, they can pilot Necromechs, and apparently they can pilot the Grey Strain. What is known about the Tenno is against a Warframe they will lose 10 out of 10 times, and against a Prime Warframe they will lose 12 out of 10 times. Although the gap physically between Warframes and Tenno are not known, it is clear that they are weaker by a significant degree. The easiest arguments to use for scaling the Tenno, like Operator and Drifter, is the boss fight with the Lotus and New War, because the Drifter is able to clash with the Lotus's beam, and then the final boss fight with Ballas and the New War at the end of the quest. Using both of these boss fights, you can put the energy levels of the Tenno in the same tier, even if they are weaker than Warframes.
You... Wait... No... Hey, let's get out of here, Arthur. Both of us. Okay? Okay.
Level 2, the Proto Frames, and the easiest part to cover in the video. The Proto Frames are regular people. They were all regular people who had jobs, positions in life they occupied, with Minerva and Velimir being the parents to General Vasulka. They were infected with tech rot, which is 1999's version of the infested, but only partially. However, Eleanor and Flare are the two most afflicted out of all the Proto-Frames. The defining feature of every Proto-Frame is that they kept their humanity but have Warframe powers. However, due to their incomplete transformation, they are not physically on par with a Warframe completely. The easiest argument for the Proto-Frames is Arthur's boss fight against the Tech Rot inside the reaction chamber. The Tech Rot he fought are relative to the Coda Technocyte, and the Coda Technocyte are relative to the Sisters of Parvos and the Kuvaliches. The Proto-Frames should be able to take on, if not defeat the Kuvaliches, but it's unknown if they can take on any stronger opponents like the Archons.
Not if you help me.
Help you? Of course. What are friends for? Let me explain what you are up against, friend.
Level 3, the Archons. The Archons are the easiest to explain right after the Proto-Frames. They are Frankenstein monsters made by Era. The Sentients took the bodies of dead Warframes and they brought them to facilities, and they took these Sentients that were modeled after animals on Earth and they spliced them with those Warframe bodies using shards.
You see, the Archons were made by my son, Era. Hybrid abominations of the old war, raised from the blighted battlefields where Sentient and Warframe fell.
While we're at it, let's explain Pazul. Pazul is not Era. Pazul is the Ram. The Ram chose the name Pazul, and he uses Era's body to push agendas. We don't know where the Ram was at before, during, or after New War. We just know that he found Era's body and now is piloting it, like we pilot Warframes. We don't know much about Pazul other than he's completely effed in the head, and he's the strongest member of Narmer. Why is he the strongest member of Narmer? Because the Archons have a primitive system of respect and fear. If you are strong, they respect you. If you are weak, they will eat you. All the Archons follow the orders of Pazul. What does that tell you about Pazul, who rules the entire primitive empire of Archons? That clearly, this man is terrifying and more than just what he has in his head. The day we confront Pazul, a lot of things will happen in Warframes lore, and we're not sure what. Other than that, here's the scaling part. Obviously, Proto-Frames are below Warframes, but the reason I have the Archons in particular above the Proto-Frames is because I think the Proto-Frames simply do not match the tenacity or the bloodlust of the Archons. The Archons outscale, and they have that dog in them. And the only people who can match Archons at this time are fellow Tenno, most specifically the main character.
Well, can't be harder than riding a horse, can it?
Level 4, the Warframes. And here we are back at square one. It's not that we lack information, it's not that we lack material, it's not that we lack lore. We have feats, we have statements, and we have showings. But somehow, the Warframes, despite being the most understood of the game, are also the most misunderstood in the game. You wanna know how difficult it is to read Atlas's lore? Wow, that's so controversial and community dividing. But wait, what about the Asteroid feat? Atlas used Ramblers, so it doesn't count. Let me explain environmental destruction for you using any object. You calculate the amount of damage something can do by its mass as well as the velocity of that object. When you move in space, you can only stay at the same speed or go faster. For asteroids, they don't slow down, they only speed up. Even when you damage something, at the speed it is moving, as well as the damage it can cause, it has the velocity necessary to destroy a planet. Whether it's just life-wiping, or you just tear it apart and it fully eradicates into nothingness. Even damaging the weak points of an asteroid means you're able to contend with the velocity of that object and overpower the velocity of that object. It doesn't matter if you're using rumblers, a shovel, or a pickaxe. You need to have the force necessary to exert another force on another thing that has the velocity and the speed necessary to destroy a planet. Comparing Atlas to the other Warframes, people really overblow the differences between Atlas and the other Warframes. Let's say you took Atlas Prime and you said he was the strongest Warframe. Then let's say you took regular Ivara and you said she is the weakest Warframe. The difference between them is not that high. It's 100 times, 50 times, 20 times, or less. It is not thousands upon millions upon trillions of times the difference magically. Here's what happens to Atlas and the Second Dream. Here's what happens when you play as any other Warframe in Second Dream. This next clip is how long it takes Atlas and every other Warframe to break war.
Invade yourself. What is this? Shadow, protect me.
If Atlas were truly tens of thousands, if not billions of times stronger than any other Warframe, then that cutscene would have had several different outcomes. If you play as any Warframe in Second Dream, and you have Atlas above that Warframe, it would have taken Atlas less than half the time it took for that other Warframe to pull the sword out. Inversely, if you play Second Dream with Atlas, and he does the feat, it would take any other Warframe more than 10 times the amount of time and effort spent to pull war out of their chest. There's no agenda pushing here, there's no theories here, and there's no speculation here. That's just it. That's just the facts. We have a demonstration of how strong Warframes are, and we see what happens when they use their strength. This whole idea that Warframes transcend Warframes, who transcend other Warframes, it's all just unicorns and rainbows and magic and ice cream, and it's all just headcanon bullcrap nonsense.
Our hubris shone like a black star. For our technology, our war machines were your kin. How easily you turned them against us. We were forced to older means. Not circuits, nor light, but flesh and disease. Our horrors passed. Our ravaged outer colonies became gardens.
In the end, while I do have several nitpicks with Warframe's storytelling methods, I do think Warframe is also rather blunt when it wants to be. The problem I see Warframe having is all the telephoning. Warframe is very unexplored in terms of its power scaling. And on that note, I didn't even use power scaling terms in the video. The worst I did was define differences between Warframes and planetary destruction. You don't need big, complicated, fancy terms just to say some Warframe characters can beat other characters not from Warframe. Inversely, I think Warframe is way stronger than Rogue Rabbit saying that the Grineer can destroy rocks, doors, walls, and the occasional planet or two. Like, come on. We have very clear solar system, if not universal, if not higher stuff. But that's all I got for you today. If you guys have something you want to say yourselves, please do so in the comments. I would love to converse with you. Anyhow, peace!